Good morning, ladies. Happy Monday. I hope you all had a fab weekend. All right, today's live. I want to recap, well, not really recap, but last week I talked about learning and honoring your physical cues. Now, this week, as promised, I want to talk more so about checking in. How do we do that? When do we do that? And recognizing feelings, and again, those internal cues. And this involves two sub-skills. So the first one is taking time to actually tune in to what you are feeling. I don't think this is really something that we are taught, but I think it's so valuable and important. And number two is being able to recognize and name your feelings and internal cues. So for example, you may have slept poorly last night and you're feeling fatigued, you're feeling sore, you're just not feeling your usual chipper self or energized self. So rather than doing your scheduled strength training session that is pretty intense, maybe you might opt for doing a yoga session instead, or a mobility session, or maybe you are just going to reduce the amounts of reps and sets that you will do in today's session. It's actually honoring what you're feeling as opposed to pushing through and doing what you are quote unquote supposed to do or what's prescribed for you to do. And you can do this daily, you can do this multiple times a day. A quick check-in might help you notice if you're feeling overwhelmed. Maybe you need to take a few deep breaths. If you're dehydrated, if you have a headache, if you are dealing with a little bit of brain fog or poor concentration, maybe you need to chug a big glass of water. Maybe you're feeling jittery, you're feeling anxious, and you choose, because of that check-in, that you are going to opt out of having your regular cup of coffee and instead choose to have a cup of tea instead. So how can we get really clear on building a check-in routine? There's a few possibilities, and I'm not expecting you to do every single one of them. That's actually what I'm telling you not to do, but to choose one thing that I'm going to talk about in the next, let's say 5 minutes here, that you can do consistently. And the first thing is, before your workouts, is to go through somewhat of a mental checklist. Take 60 seconds to really tune in with yourself. I really don't think we do that enough. I used to never, ever do this. I would just push through, blinders on, without really tuning into what I actually needed, what your body actually needs. And that checklist can look like checking in with how your sleep was. How's your stress? How's your hunger? How's your hydration? How's your energy? And, judge yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 and give yourself an overall score. And this simple checklist will just encourage you to tune into how you're feeling and what's going on in your life so that you can use it to then inform how your workout should go. Because again, that's so important. I'm telling you this, ladies, because I have ignored those cues and it has gotten me in, shall we say, some deep waters with my health. Hormone imbalances, really, really poor sleep, insomnia. If you've been with me for quite some time, a few years ago, felt terrible. Despite doing all the right things, eating the right food, doing all my workouts, doing my cardio, there was still something missing. And it's because I was just pushing through like I had been in my 20s and most of my 30s. And we just can't keep going on like that without truly checking in with ourselves, especially when we are in midlife, perimenopause, and menopause, some transitions that we go through that has a pretty big impact on our physical health. And so I guess that's why I am taking the time to create these trainings, because it is that important. Now, the second thing is to check in actually during your workout, before each exercise, to take 5, maybe 10 seconds to really tune into how are you feeling. Are you feeling strong? Maybe it is time to increase the weight and strive for a few more reps. Are you feeling sore? Is something kind of, is your knee kind of tweaking you a little bit, or just not feeling right? Maybe that's the time to not push through and to take some weight off and to do less reps. Your plan is not set in stone. And from week to week, even from day to day, things are going to feel different. You're not always going to be able to keep progressing forward. And I think that we have this idea in our head that we're just chasing more reps, more weights, more strength without tuning in, but our bodies need breaks. And depending on whatever else is going on in your life, you might be somebody who needs more breaks, and that is a-okay. That does not mean by any means that you have failed. You've actually practiced a very valuable skill by tuning into what you actually need and honoring that. And me even saying that, it's hard because I have ignored those cues so much. And last week I didn't. I took an extra rest day on Wednesday because that's typically a workout day for me. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. By the time I opted for yoga instead, by the time Friday came around, I felt great. I then crushed a workout. Sorry for that little side tangent. Now, the third time that you could build a self check-in routine is just throughout the day. That could be first thing in the morning when you are just having some quiet time, doing your journaling, doing your affirmations. It could be before bed, same thing when you're doing your journaling, when you're doing your affirmations, depending on what your routine looks like. Maybe it is after or before each meal. Like, I'm giving you so many options here. And again, it's not to overwhelm you, but it is to pick one time of the day to check in with yourself and to see how you are feeling. Maybe it's after you've put the kids to bed. Again, checking in about your sleep, your energy, your stress, your hydration, your hunger. And this can give you vital information about what your body needs. And last but not least, it's doing what we call interoception. So that is kind of a body awareness scan. I forget the type of yoga, Nidra. I think that's the one, Yoga Nidra. Don't quote me on that. But it is like you do this full body scan from head to toe or from toe to head, depends on the individual. But it's to like be so present with yourself and tune into what you're actually feeling. Like, does your scalp feel tight? I don't know, like if you've got your hair in a ponytail, that's really tight. Like, is it too tight? Is it creating tension? Like stuff like that. How's your jaw? Like, I hold so much tension in my jaw, and that's one thing for me because I get, not that I have TMJ, but I get like a sore jaw, and that's where I clench. A lot of people will clench like in their upper shoulders, their back, and they're having to do, some shoulder rolls. But even something like that, if you sit at a computer and you know that you're hunched over or leaning some type of way, just taking breaks, I'd say a couple times a day to reset, to roll those shoulders, to see, am I actually holding tension? Is one side feeling different than the other? Like how are my arms feeling from typing or whatever it might be? Are you holding tension in your stomach? Are you somebody who gets like a nervous stomach? Realizing that, how you're sitting, are your hips feeling equal? That sort of thing. Really tuning into your body and the tight areas and sending breath and energy and relaxation to those areas is crazy valuable. And I didn't practice this until I started going to yoga consistently and learned about like actually tuning in and visualizing my body. And I'm like, oh, this is crazy. Like one side versus the other. I feel lopsided. My jaw, once again, my shoulders. And I think that just being in tune with that is, like I said, it's so, so valuable. And as I mentioned quickly earlier, I have been that girl, that A-type personality, perfectionism. I talked a little bit about this last Monday, comes from my childhood where I've just like ignored what I truly needed and was doing so many things for other people. And I think that many women get caught up in doing that. So it's important. It's so important because it's going to prevent you from having digestive issues, yes, hormonal issues, fatigue, burnout, which I see a lot of, depression, low mood, can be anger, because we are just like giving to everybody else that we care for, except actually tuning in to what we really need. So hopefully you found that valuable. Start simple, start easy. If it is just tuning in, like I said, before you start your workout for 60 seconds while you're doing your mobility to actually check in with yourself, that's 3-4 times a week. I think that that is a great place to start. And then of course you could always, increase that to, like I said, either the morning, the evening, after you put your kids to sleep, before breakfast, before a specific meal, as you're driving to work. And figure out what you need, because that is so important for reaching all of your health and fitness goals. All right, ladies, I am peacing out. Have an amazing day, and I will be back on Thursday for Q&A.